Lech, Lecha, page Yud Beis, bottom of the first column. Okay, the pasuk says, your name will not be called Avram anymore, or Yashimcha Avraham. Hashem added a hey, ki Avam en goyim, because you're the father of the multitude of nations. Kitam lemila, what's the purpose? Because that happened through the inyan of bris milah, so Hashem changed his name. So he says the reason of milah, the chsiv hashebodo lekim lases lusaki. It says at the end of creation, we say in Kiddush Friday night, that Hashem created to do. So the Medrash in Zayir says, what does it mean to do? Lusakin, to fix. Shadayin tzarech tikun ha'yidei ha'adam. World, even though Hashem made the world, which is to perfection, but the world still needs to be perfected by a person. Ki hagam shekvar bara lekim es ha'adam. Even though Hashem already created the person, leibara b'shleimus, he didn't create him complete. That's why, because he's going to explain, they asked, the Medrash says, they asked, this guy asked, if Hashem hates the foreskin, why didn't he just create it without a foreskin? Then we wouldn't have to do a bris. It says in the Medrash, Shol ala milah, that they asked a question about bris milah, im chavivi amila. If milah is so precious to Hashem, lama nivra adam adam. Why did Hashem create a person uncircumcised? And we have to circumcise. He says, why doesn't he just create us circumcised? The answer was, anything that was created in the 6 days of creation needs to be fixed and made better, like the type of beans. Yeah, Hashem could have made bread grow from the ground. He said, no, he made wheat. We have to take the wheat and grind it and this and that. So we have to work to better the product that Hashem made. That's what he did. He made an unfinished world that we should be able to finish it. Love and a mashal, but understand what is the mashal, daimel and imshal. What does this mashal, like beans, have to do with bris milah? Like what's the connection between the two? So he says, in a name that's known, it says in the pasuk, and we say it every day in davening, Hashem renews every day the act of creation, which is the new concept of yesh miyayin, something from nothing. He says, in order to create from spiritual something physical, meaning like this: you have kedusha and you have evil. In order to transform ruchnius to gashmius, kedusha to evil, there has to be some type of separation there. Like you have a mavdul ben kedush l'chol, or even in the Beis Hamikdash, between the Holy of Holies and the Holies, there was a separation, a pereches. Ki Beis Hamikdash ha'asham ha'yam makir hashpa v'gil ha'shchinim b'kedush kadashim. In the Beis Hamikdash, the source of all sustenance, where was the ultimate revelation of the Shechina and the Kadosh HaKadoshim. But in order for that revelation to go from the Holy of Holies to the rest of the Beis Hamikdash, to the rest of Yerushalayim, to the rest of Eretz Yisrael, to the rest of the world, it couldn't have been through the similar revelation. Meaning like this: if the Kedusha of the Holy of Holies would spread out all over the world as is, then you'd only have the Holy of Holies. There wouldn't be any different levels. In order to have different levels, which obviously Hashem wanted, so there has to be some type of a blockage between level A and level B and level C and level D. Because if level A is revealed as is, then it's all A. Then there's no B, C, D. It's just revelation as it is. So he says, So there was a curtain, or pareches, whatever, that separated between Kodesh HaKadoshim, between that level of Kedusha, Shesham Haya Agili Ashchina, where the ultimate Shechina was revealed in the Holy of Holies, the B'chinas Kodesh, to the level of the Heichal, the rest of the Beis HaMikdash. Like it says in Targum, and the word pareches, parsa. What does parsa mean? A covering. So what was the purpose of the separation between the Kodesh HaKadoshim and the rest of the Beis HaMikdash? Was a curtain that separated to block the covering. It's actually not a wall. It was a covering to block that level of Shechina, that it should come less into the rest of the Beis HaMikdash. And there were many of these coverings in the Beis HaMikdash. The whole chain of the world, from level to level, why they mosach parsamafsik, is through a curtain that separates bein kol elam, between every world. Therefore, it says that in Kabbalah and Chassidus, that between Atzilus and Bria, there's a curtain. Between Bria and Yetzirah, there's a curtain. Between Yetzirah and Asiyah, there's a curtain. Now, in the same world, you don't need a curtain, because it's the same level, just a little bit less. But once you go from one world to the next, then it's a drastic change, so then you need a separation between the two. It's similar to the concept of yesh mi'ayin. Now, cause and effect, ila va'olu, cause and effect, so you can have one level, just a little bit less is the next level. But when you go from one extreme to another extreme, it's not going to help just making it less. You need actually a blockage to break the earlier level completely. You can't have that without. So you have two examples. You have a light, okay, you have a light shining on the table. Now, the closer you are to the light, you have more light. Further you are away from the light, you have less light. But it's the same light, more and less, but it's the same light. What happens when you take a covering, a blanket, and put it over the light? So now you have a different type of a light. It's not the same light less. It's a different type of light. So when you go from one extreme to another extreme, it's not enough just to have a little bit less. Because then you're going to still have the same level as before, just a little bit less. So it's not a new thing. A new thing means it's a different type of a level. So that you need a parsa. Therefore, between the Kodesh HaKadoshim, which is holiest place in the Beis HaMikdash, between that level and another level, it wasn't just a little bit less. It was completely different. So you needed that curtain, or the pareches, whatever it was. And then from that next level to the next level, again, the different boundaries.
Between Asilut and Bria, the parsa is Asilut, or is it Bria? Like,
It's the intermediary that connects the two.
It's neither one.
It's both.
It's both.
Malchus.
Like Elohim, which is like the same, is covering, but is the same. So is it the same concept?
It's the intermediary that covers from one level to the next level. Okay, so he says, second column. That's what we say. That Hashem renews the world constantly. Because ayin is ayin. Ayin is defined as ayin, nothingness. Yesh is defined as yesh. There's absolutely no connection between nothing and something. So you can't just make nothing something by making a little less nothing, you become something. Just like spiritual and physical, you can't take spiritual and just less spiritual, and all of a sudden it's going to become physical. I mean, spiritual divided by 2 is not going to make physical. It's still spiritual. So it has to be something new completely. A complete different covering that cuts it completely. Through this curtain and covering, Nasa Chodesh. That becomes a light of an offshoot. It's not at all the same level as the first light. We said, you take a blanket and you cover the light on the opposite, at the other side of the blanket is not at all similar to the first light. It's not the same light less. It's a completely different type of a light. Then it comes down lower, it becomes another parcel until Nisava Gashmis Mamash. And by the way, this ability to take Ruchnius, block it, and still make Gashmis, only Hashem can do. You can't mathematically take infinite and divide it by 1,000,000 times and it's going to become finite. It just can't. Even this that Hashem makes Yesh Mi'ayin, that only Hashem himself is able to do, is also because it still is with a parsa. But even finally making a parsa from turning Ruchnis into Gashmis is something only Hashem can do, nobody else can do. I mean, there's two similarities in the world, but it's still not the same. And that's childbearing. You take a little seed of the father and you create a baby. Or in vegetation, you put a seed in the ground, it rots, it germinates, and then out comes a big tree. That's because Malchus, which is earth, women, all that stuff, is mushrish in the essence of Hashem. It's rooted in the essence of Hashem. Therefore, in Gashmis, what is the two possible scenarios of not real Yesh Mi'ayin, because you still have a seed, is these two things. And therefore it says, the Koyach Eloda, the ability for parents to have a children is Koyach Ein Sof, it's the infinite power of Hashem. Because in a certain respect it's infinite, because theoretically you can keep having children for all generations, infinite amount of generations. Okay, it's late. Okay, now you have many different types of Havdalah. He said, like you say in Shemer Mitzvah Shabbos, you have a Mavdol ben Kodesh Tochel. Okay, you have one which is Masach Mavdol Gomor, which is a complete wall, holy versus mundane. Bein Udaim LeParsha Shebei Masach ben Kodesh HaKadoshim LeKodesh HaKadoshim. You know, it's not at all the same curtain between the Holy of Holies and the Holies. That's both Kedusha, like we say. You have a Mavdol ben Kodesh to Kodesh, you have a Mavdol ben Kodesh to Chol. It's not the same. To be continued.